warning that uncertainty over the fiscal cliff tax hikes could keep holiday shoppers from spending, period. Townhall.com news editor Katie Pavlich says, Mr. President, instead of pointing fingers, try looking in the mirror and do something about it. It's a good point, Katie, but right now the onus is being put on Republicans to make concessions on revenues, and yeah, I can understand if elections have consequences, but part of those consequences were both sides giving a little. I see it only one way thus far.
And I would have to agree with you. And we're looking at the White House coming out today with these economic numbers, essentially warning the country that the middle class might not go out and spend on holiday gifts or maybe some excess holiday things.
Do you believe that?
Right.
Do you believe it?
I don't. You look at, Black Friday. It would take a Mack
truck and a thermonuclear reactor to stop my wife, and I don't buy it. I do not buy it.
I don't buy that either. But what they're doing here is a strategic move, and they're looking at this. You notice that the White House is banking off of the middle class, which means they're trying to use the middle class argument, which they used to get President Obama reelected, to get a fiscal deal done quickly. And what I mean by that is the White House is focused on the middle class, so they call their senators, call their Republican House members, call their Democratic House members, and tell them, look, the uncertainty is killing me. I don't want to go to these stores. But what the White House is failing to mention is that this tax hike with the fiscal cliff that will occur on January 1st, President Obama wants tax hikes on those making more than $250,000 a year, will affect the middle class in the sense that their job creators will no longer have the money to pay them because they'll be paying more in taxes.
Well, we're past that. I mean, the train has left that spending station, unfortunately. I could be wrong on Pam, but I think it's a given those rates are going to go up. We don't know how much. I should say the taxes are going to go up, and we don't know how much. But leaving that aside, how do you make the argument that a deal by the end of the year, even if it's a bad deal, is better than no deal? If the ratings agencies pounce on a crappy deal, let's say it's disproportionately weighted toward tax hikes, not even addressing spending cuts, wouldn't the credit agencies seize on that and downgrade us just the same? Bad deal?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is what we saw with the debt ceiling last summer. We saw them raise the debt ceiling, and then we saw our credit rating go down. And if you want to talk about that, the White House tapped Tim Geithner today, the Treasury Secretary, to head these fiscal talks, even though he's the one who said we should have an infinite debt ceiling and got the bad debt deal last year, and we got downgraded anyway. And so you're absolutely right about the fact that these credit agencies, if it's a bad deal, which it's probably going to be, considering we really have no time left to actually talk about entitlement reform
and
real
Katie, you had a word from Jake Carney at the White House that for the time being at least, which means to me maybe forever at least, Social Security isn't on the table. So it's a pretty big one. And if that's off the table, then what is on the table?
Well, and that's the big question. And even if they put entitlement reform, quote, on the table, the problem is they're not going to be able to do entitlement reform in 60 days. So it's just impossible. So they might get the promise of entitlement reform, but then we're back to the George W. Bush era, where he also got a promise we would get entitlement reform, and it never happened.
Yeah,
so
you raise taxes first. Right, raise taxes first, get walloped later. All right, Katie, great seeing you again. Thank you very, very much.
Great to see you. Thanks, Neil.